Sit back and enjoy an hour of fascinating facts you didn't know. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get started.
The first car crash in history occurred in 1771, when French engineer Nicolas Cugnot crashed one of his vehicles into a stone wall. His cars ran on a steam engine and had to stop every 6.2 miles to generate more power. Pigs are considered the fourth most intelligent non-human animal, just behind chimpanzees, dolphins, and elephants. However, they are the only ones among these that have been domesticated and are raised on farms for human consumption. In Sweden, people wrote Donald Duck on their ballots so often that it led to a law being passed in 2006 that prohibited voting for Donald Duck and any other non-existent candidate. For 20 years, in theory, Donald Duck received enough votes in Sweden to be the ninth largest political force in the country. According to a theory that originated in a study, dogs can smell time. This means they can differentiate scents from one hour to another around them. In contrast, humans are more visual and rely on sunlight to know what time it is. Children begin to lie at around 2 years of age. This is when that concept develops in their brain, and that is why it is believed that children who start lying at earlier ages have better cognitive development than those who do so later. In 1963, a Volkswagen Beetle, also known as a bug, donated by the company itself, became the first automobile in Antarctica, withstanding temperatures of -50 degrees and winds of 93.2 miles per hour, so much that they gave it the nickname the Red Terror. In Central Park, in the middle of Manhattan, New York, there used to be sheep living there grazing freely. However, they were removed in 1934 due to the economic crisis known as the Great Depression, and they wanted to prevent people from eating them. The citizens of Rio de Janeiro were so dissatisfied with politicians in the 1988 elections that a chimpanzee from a local zoo received more than 400,000 votes. In 2020, pandas went from being an endangered species to being considered only vulnerable. This is due to efforts made over the years in China, where more than 1,800 exist in the wild, while 400 live in zoos around the world. If you put your finger in your ear repeatedly, it sounds like Pac-Man. In the 18th century, King Louis XIV and other men began wearing high heels as a status symbol, and it later became a competition to see who had the highest heels. So regulations were established where only nobility could wear heels higher than 1.97 inches. Before erasers were invented as we know them, people used white breadcrumbs to erase pencil writing. Turbulence in airplanes cannot be predicted. It can occur at any time, even on days with good weather and no clouds. There is a breed of completely black chickens in Indonesia called ayam cemani that, in addition to having black feathers, also have black legs, black beaks, and even black internal organs. The largest gold bar in the world weighs 551.2 pounds and has a value of $14 million. It was displayed at the Toy Gold Museum in Japan, and people were allowed to touch it. On Christmas Island, located near Australia, there is an annual migration of more than 50 million crabs that gather on the beaches to reproduce. There are so many that it looks like a red carpet. The tradition of biting Olympic medals and biting metal in general comes from long ago, when this test was used to determine whether something was truly made of gold. Since gold is highly malleable, teeth leave marks on it. If it was not pure gold, you could break your teeth. Bears are among the most intelligent animals. They are very good at obtaining food and avoiding hunters. Animal trainers claim they are smarter than dogs and nearly at the level of chimpanzees. Adding iodine to salt was proven to increase average intelligence quotient scores in the United States by nearly 4 points, while in specific areas with iodine-deficient populations, it increased by up to 15 points. Many animal shelters have a rule against adopting out black cats near Halloween because most people do it impulsively and later fail to care for them properly. The coco de mer plant, found in Seychelles and the Maldives, has the largest seeds in the world. They can weigh up to 52.9 pounds and have a very unusual shape. During the Victorian era, special mustache cups were popular, designed with guards to keep mustaches from getting wet while drinking, but they later went out of fashion. At a university in Bangkok, Thailand, special anti-cheating helmets were once used so students could not copy during exams, but they have since apologized and stopped using them. More than 700,000 bottles of Tabasco sauce are sold every day, and all of them are made in the same factory in Louisiana, United States. In fact, this sauce has nothing to do with the state of Tabasco in Mexico. When a person smokes, nicotine reaches the brain in only 7 seconds. In comparison, alcohol takes 6 minutes to reach the brain. Poveglia Island in Italy is considered one of the most haunted places in the world. It was a war zone, a place for plague victims, and a psychiatric hospital. There have been projects to rehabilitate it and make it a tourist destination, but none have been carried out. Ireland's parliament purchased an industrial printer worth €800,000 in 2019. Then they realized it was too large for the assigned space, so they spent another €230,000 moving walls and reinforcing the building. Apparently, no one told them they accepted returns. At Yale University, there is a library containing invaluable books where, instead of windows, all the walls are made of translucent marble to protect the books from direct sunlight exposure. The shortest distance between Europe and Africa is only 14.3 miles at the Strait of Gibraltar. For a long time, there have been discussions about building a bridge or tunnel to connect the two continents, but nothing has been done so far. China has planted what is now the largest artificial forest in the world. They call it the Great Green Wall, and it was created to stop the expansion of the Gobi Desert, which causes dust storms in Beijing. It is planned that by the year 2074, it will have a length of 2,783 miles. When the Calypso song Rum and Coca-Cola from 1945 was going to be released in the United States, Pepsi offered a large amount of money to the composer to change the name to Rum and Pepsi-Cola. However, Coca-Cola made a counteroffer with even more money and won. There is a law that says pet turtles cannot measure less than 3.9 inches, so that children cannot put them in their mouths and get sick with salmonella. There is a street in Poland called Obi-Wan Kenobi Street, in honor of the Jedi Master from the Star Wars movies. The name was proposed by a neighborhood council member who is clearly a fan, and it was approved in 2004. It has been visited by thousands of fans, and even actors who have appeared in the films. The movie Nosferatu from 1922 was almost lost forever. After losing a lawsuit against Bram Stoker's family, all copies were ordered to be destroyed. However, one was in the United States, where Dracula is a public domain story. It was the only one that survived. In Disney theme parks, especially Disneyland, there is a policy of not selling chewing gum. They do this because Walt Disney himself did not want people stepping on gum while walking. The first time the character Nick Fury appeared on screen was in the 1988 television movie Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., and he was played by David Hasselhoff. Later, actor Samuel L. Jackson took over the character and has played him for more than 10 years. French writer Georges Perec wrote an entire novel without using the letter E, which is the most used letter in the French language. Later, he wrote another one in which the only vowel he used was E. In the Spanish translation, they chose not to use the letter A, but they had to change quite a lot. Beethoven hated social class division so much that he would stop while playing if he heard any member of the aristocracy talking. He grew up in the lower class. The ultra-luxury Burj Al Arab Hotel in the city of Dubai provides all its guests with a 24-karat gold iPad during their stay. The reason liquid comes out of our nose when we cry is due to excess tears entering the nasal cavity. That means, in a way, we also cry through our nose. Pole vault athlete Sergei Bubka had a contract that offered him $100,000 each time he broke the world record, so he came up with the idea of breaking the record 35 times. He increased it by only a few centimeters each time. In 2011, a rodent believed to be extinct since 1898 appeared at the entrance of a research center in Colombia and allowed photos to be taken of it for 2 hours. After that, it disappeared and has not been seen again. In Australia, the most dangerous animals have not been tarantulas, sharks, or kangaroos. In fact, the ones that have caused the most injuries to people have been common farm animals such as horses and cows. California newspapers received news of Abraham Lincoln's victory in the 1861 election only 7 days and 17 hours after newspapers on the East Coast published it, which was considered a major achievement since in the previous election it took nearly a month for the news to arrive. In the St. Louis Olympic Games of 1904, 523 of the 630 athletes who participated were from the United States. Only athletes from 12 other countries attended. At that time, it was slow and expensive to travel to that city for most people in the world. In Japan, blood type is believed to be an indicator of personality similar to horoscopes. This belief is so popular that Facebook, in Japan, has the option to include blood type in the profile. The largest and tallest trees generally do not produce the greatest quantity or quality of fruit. In fact, farmers prune them and control their size so they use their energy to produce better fruit. As part of an experiment, Japanese astronaut Koichi Wakata wore the same underwear for 1 month aboard the International Space Station, which was designed to be antibacterial even if astronauts exercised daily. The Tourette Syndrome Association issued a statement congratulating the series South Park for being well informed about this condition after they saw the episode Le Petit Tourette. Originally, Mickey Mouse was supposed to enter the public domain in the 1970s, but Disney spent millions of dollars to get the United States Congress to approve laws extending copyright duration. The last time was in 1998. Mickey's first appearance is expected to finally enter the public domain in 2024. To protect the original Kentucky Fried Chicken recipe, a private company is responsible for mixing half of the 11 spices it contains, and then delivers it to McCormick, where they add the other half before it reaches the restaurants. The smallest desert in the world measures only 0.97 square miles. It is the Carcross Desert and is located in Canada. It is a series of sand dunes that originated from what remained of a glacier thousands of years ago, although experts say it is not dry enough to truly be called a desert. There is a condition called math anxiety, which is the intense feeling of worry or fear experienced by people who have to take a math test or complete a math task, causing them to get poor grades even if they are skilled or know the answers. In 2007, violinist Joshua Bell conducted an experiment where he played on the street to see how much money he would earn, and only managed to make $31 in a day. The day before, he performed a concert where tickets sold out at $100 each. Additionally, the violin he was playing was worth $3.5 million. Until the year 1616, all the coffee that existed was controlled by Yemen, and it was forbidden to sell live plants and seeds so that it would not exist anywhere else. But this changed when a Dutch merchant secretly took a few seeds to his country. In the following years, coffee would spread throughout the world. The actor who has received the most money for acting in a movie is Will Smith, who received $100 million for his role in Men in Black 3 in 2012. According to research conducted by biochemists, the speed limit a human could reach while running could be 39.8 miles per hour. The world record holder, Usain Bolt, reached a top speed of 28 miles per hour. Mozart wrote the fragment Come Scoglio from the opera Così fan tutte with very pronounced harmonic changes on purpose, because he disliked the soprano who sang it and wanted her to move her head like a chicken while singing due to the technique required. In 1993, during a plane trip on a tour, Nirvana drummer Dave Grohl overheard a conversation from vocalist Kurt Cobain where he mentioned that Dave was a terrible drummer. This made him decide to leave the band, but he was convinced to stay by the tour representative and coordinator, Alex McLeod. In Finland, they found a rock that appears to be perfectly balanced on a curved base, as if by magic. It is called Kumakivi, which means strange rock. No one knows whether it was placed there or formed naturally. Ice cream tasters, or tasters of certain types of food, generally use gold-coated spoons because they do not alter the flavor, unlike wood, plastic, or other metals. In 2006, the International Gymnastics Federation changed the way routines are scored. Instead of being scored from 0 to 10, there are now two separate scores, execution and difficulty, which are then added together. This ended the tradition of the perfect 10 score. Some clothing items have pockets that come sewn shut. They cannot be accessed and seem decorative, but they are actually fully functional pockets, and this is only done to preserve the shape of the clothing during distribution. In 2011, archaeologists working at the site where the Twin Towers once stood in New York discovered an 18th century ship that had once been used by merchants. Official World Championship chess pieces are handmade using wood carving tools, and all the pieces are made relatively easily except for the knights, whose production can take hours and can account for up to 50% of the total value of a complete set. In 1986, a cartoon and comic television program called Young Astronauts was ready to be released, but it was canceled immediately after the Challenger space shuttle disaster. In the Soviet Union, there was a very popular singing contest that aired on television. Since most people did not have telephones at that time, they used a different method to choose the winners. They asked people to turn on the lights in their homes if they liked a song, or turn them off if they did not. Then the electric company measured the changes in overall consumption and reported it to the program. When school entrance exams were conducted in Algeria in 2018, internet access was cut off across the entire country to prevent cheating. Banks and other services also stopped operating during the duration of the test. In 1196, Al-Aziz Uthman, Sultan of Egypt, ordered the demolition of the famous pyramids of the Giza Plateau, starting with Menkora, one of the smallest. After 8 months of hard work by hundreds of men, they realized that demolishing it would be more difficult and expensive than building it. On average, we blink 15 to 20 times each minute. That means each day, we blink about 17,000 times, and each year between 5.2 and 7.1 million times. This equals having our eyes closed 10% of the time. Niagara Falls can be turned off with a button that diverts the water. In 1969, it was turned off to perform maintenance and rearrange the rocks at the bottom. In Pyongyang, North Korea, there is a store with an Apple logo that looks similar to an Apple store. But inside, they sell actual apples. Baseball player Joe DiMaggio felt he was receiving special treatment when he went to World War II with the Army, so he demanded to be sent into combat. In Finland, speeding violations are calculated according to a person's income. This causes Finnish millionaires to pay fines of more than 100,000 euros. In Russia, there was a time when wealthy people hired fake ambulances to move faster through the city during heavy traffic. They were very expensive, but had luxurious interiors and caviar and champagne service. The movie Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory from 1971 did not use the name Charlie in the title as it originally appears in the book, because at that time, the Vietnam War was at its most tense point, and American soldiers referred to Vietnamese forces by the code name Charlie. In 1963, during the Cold War, the United States military launched 480 million copper needles into space so they would disperse and orbit Earth. They were intended to reflect radio waves for communication in case the Soviets cut underwater cables. But that did not happen, and the needles are still floating there today. To drain all the blood from a person, it would require 1,200,000 mosquito bites. Some mosquitoes can absorb as much as their own weight in liquid with each bite. In 2001, in the territory of Niue, which is an island north of New Zealand, commemorative Pokémon dollar coins were made featuring Pikachu, Charmander, and others. Today, they are highly valued by collectors. The word idiot comes from ancient Greek and was used in Athens, where it originally meant a person who did not care about or participate in public and political affairs. On Mackinac Island in Michigan, United States, all motor vehicles are banned, including cars, and people usually travel by bicycle or carriage. However, in 2019, this tradition was broken when then Vice President Mike Pence visited with a convoy of armored vehicles and even a helicopter. During the filming of a scene in the movie Suicide Squad, John Cena appears eating an empanada on a rooftop as his character Peacemaker. That scene had to be repeated many times, so he ended up eating 31 empanadas and said he was close to not being able to continue. There is a method called tree shaping, in which trees are manipulated over months or years so their form changes and becomes works of art. The country with the longest coastline is Canada, with 151,026 miles. Cosmonaut Valentina Tereshkova was launched into space in 1963 and became the first woman in orbit. The Soviets did this quickly to beat the United States to that achievement when they learned women astronauts were being trained. However, it was a misunderstanding because that was not happening. They misread a news article. Some of the oldest known pieces of writing are actually complaints sent to a businessman named Ea Nasir for doing poor work in Mesopotamia. He even used an entire room to store all the clay tablets with the complaints engraved on them. The first woman to show her belly button on television with a live audience was singer Cher in 1971. At that time, there was a law that prohibited doing so, but it became obsolete until it disappeared in 1983. It has been reported that some Japanese companies such as Toshiba, Sony, or Panasonic have special areas where they send employees who are no longer needed and give them meaningless tasks or nothing to do until they resign voluntarily to avoid paying severance benefits. The most remote settlement in the world is Edinburgh of the Seven Seas, located on Tristan da Cunha Island in the middle of the South Atlantic Ocean. It is so remote that the nearest town is on St. Helena Island, 1,350 miles away. The largest yacht in the world is the Azam, which measures 590 feet and costs $600 million. It has 94,000 horsepower and can travel at a speed of 37.3 miles per hour. The Eiffel Tower in Paris is currently one of the most important monuments in France, but there was a time when it was used only for advertising for more than 10 years. The car company Citroën displayed giant letters on the tower. In 1970, Norwegian adventurer Thor Heyerdahl set out to prove that Egyptians could have crossed the Atlantic Ocean using only a boat, so he departed from Morocco in a papyrus boat traditionally used for fishing. He was lost for several days, but managed to reach Barbados 57 days later. In ancient Greece, they had a process called ostracism, in which each year citizens could vote for the politician they considered most destructive to democracy. The chosen person was exiled from Athens for 10 years. The Solvay hut is located on the edge of a mountain at 12,999 feet above sea level in Switzerland. It is considered the most dangerous hut in the world and has a rating of 4.5 stars on Google. In the early years of the 20th century, horses were causing so much pollution from waste left on the streets that automobiles were seen as the environmentally friendly alternative. Actor Dick Van Dyke, who is currently 95 years old, has been a fan of three-dimensional animation and effects for decades and has designed renders for his television shows on some occasions. Spiders tune their webs like guitar strings, loosening or tightening them to read the frequencies caused by intruders and recognize whether they are prey, predators, or another spider looking for a mate. Llamas are used as guards for sheep herds against coyote attacks. Even a single llama can protect an entire herd and scare away or even fight a coyote. They are truly very brave. Although people rarely consume it, the white part of watermelons that separates the rind from the flesh is just as healthy and nutritious as the red part. The largest ball pit in the world was installed at the Shangri-La Hotel in China in 2013. It measures 82 feet by 39 feet and contains around 1 million colored balls. In ancient Rome, chariot drivers, which were horse-drawn racing carts, received pay greater than the equivalent of what international sports stars earn today. The highest denomination banknote ever circulated was the 100 trillion pengo bill from Hungary. This was caused by hyperinflation after World War II. Shortly afterward, a new currency with fewer zeros was introduced. An experiment was once conducted where the script of the acclaimed classic movie Casablanca was sent to 217 Hollywood agencies under a fake name. It was read by 85 agencies. Of those, only 8 realized it was that movie and that it was a joke, and only 3 responded that it was a good idea to make it from a commercial standpoint, even though in real life it is one of the most famous movies ever made. The stadium of the FC Vaduz team in Liechtenstein has a capacity of 7,000 people. Even though the city has a total population of only 5,000, it can also hold 20% of the country's entire population. A millionaire from China named Yu Yusheng has worked cleaning streets since 1998. She wakes up at 3 in the morning and receives a salary of $228, despite having nearly $2 million in real estate. She continues doing this to set a good example for her children. Many billionaires have support yachts that follow their main yacht, carrying things that do not fit, such as jet skis, lifeboats, and anything else too heavy. For some reason, actor Brad Pitt almost always appears eating or drinking something in the movies he acts in, and an internet user calculated that movies where he consumes more than 200 calories of food tend to have better box office results. The pronghorn, or American antelope, is the second fastest land animal of all. Biologists still do not know the exact reason for its speed, but it is believed they developed it while escaping prehistoric leopards that hunted them more than 10,000 years ago. Jazz singer Ella Fitzgerald forgot the lyrics to her song Mac the Knife during a performance in Berlin in 1960 when she was recording a live album. Instead of stopping, she improvised the lyrics on the spot. Shortly afterward, she won a Grammy for her performance. Muhammad Ali's star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame is the only one not placed on the ground. It is located on one of the walls of the Kodak Theater. It was placed there because the boxer said he did not want his name to be stepped on. 1/4 of the world's hazelnut production each year is used to make Nutella. That is approximately 10,000 tons of hazelnuts every year. Actress Mila Kunis has mentioned that in her free time, she likes to play video games. But when she started playing World of Warcraft, it became an addiction that began affecting her daily life, so she had to stop playing for a year. In 2016, Mozart sold more albums than artists such as Drake, Beyoncé, and Adele. This happened because Universal released a special 225 anniversary edition in a box containing 200 discs. Each one counted as 200. In Cancun, Mexico, there is a museum underwater that has more than 500 life-sized sculptures of people that also serve as a coral reef. French wines grow from American roots. In 1870, there was a plague that devastated grape fields in France. As a result, they had to import grape plants from Missouri, which were more resistant. Nintendo has had only 6 presidents in its entire history, despite being founded in 1889. Before making video games, they were dedicated to making all kinds of things, such as cards, toys, and even instant rice. In 1993, an inventor in South Korea created a prototype autonomous car that used a computer placed in the passenger seat. It successfully drove itself from the city of Seoul to Busan without any incidents. However, neither the industry nor the government supported it. The iconic 3-stripe Adidas design. While some say Adidas created it when the company was founded, others claim it was purchased from the Finnish company Karhu in 1952 in exchange for the equivalent of 1,600 euros and 2 bottles of whiskey. The Night Watch by Rembrandt is one of the most recognizable paintings in the world and is known for being very large, measuring 11.5 feet by 14.1 feet. However, what many people do not know is that it used to be even larger. In 1715, parts were cut off so it could fit inside Amsterdam's City Hall. The cut even removed 2 characters. The musical horn logo of Stella Artois beer is the oldest logo still in use today. It was created in 1366 when the brewery was called Den Horn. In 1708, the company was purchased by Sebastian Artois, and he decided to keep that part of the logo. Although director Stanley Kubrick was known for his meticulous attention to detail, there is a very noticeable mistake in the movie The Shining, and that is that at the beginning in the aerial shots of the hotel, the hedge maze that becomes an important part of the film is never visible. In 1979, pieces of the Skylab space station fell in the city of Esperance in Australia, and shortly afterward, NASA was sent a receipt with a $400 fine for littering, and they had to pay it. Only 30% of all the snakes that appeared in the 2006 movie Snakes on a Plane were real. The rest were plastic models or digital. In real life, a roadrunner can reach speeds of up to 19.9 miles per hour, while a coyote can reach up to 42.9 miles per hour. Meaning, cartoons lied to us. Actor Giancarlo Esposito said that having worked on Sesame Street alongside Big Bird in the past helped make it easier for him to film scenes with Baby Yoda in The Mandalorian, where costumes and puppets were also used. Before getting the role of Mobius in the series Loki, Owen Wilson knew almost nothing about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so Tom Hiddleston, who has played Loki for 10 years, had to give him a lesson on the mythology and history of his character. Some of their conversations were even recorded and used in scenes where they talk. The set where actress Anne Hathaway sang in the movie Les Misérables was filled with algae and fresh fish to make it more realistic. However, with the heat from the lighting, everything quickly began to smell bad. Even so, they continued filming for hours. Pepto-Bismol was originally created to treat cholera. The original formula was used to calm symptoms, but later it continued to be used for simpler conditions until today. It is one of the few medications that contain the mineral bismuth. There is a theory that claims humans developed into what we are thanks to sleep. That since our ancestors left the trees to rest on the ground, there was an improvement in deep sleep, which over the millennia improved the brain. However, there is no real proof of this theory. In 1990, the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum was looted. 13 paintings were stolen with a total value of $500 million. To this day, none have been found, and the museum still offers a reward of $10 million for anyone who helps recover them, the largest reward ever offered by a museum. Catholic and Protestant areas in Northern Ireland are still separated by walls measuring 26.2 feet, which are called peace lines. 38% of British people admit they have difficulty understanding what other British people say. This is due to the different accents that exist in the United Kingdom, and it is said that every 24.9 miles, the change in accents is noticeable. The country with the most millionaires in the world is the United States. However, the country with the most billionaires, meaning people with more than $1 billion, is China. The Appian Way in Italy is a paved road that was built more than 22 centuries ago during the Roman Empire. Today, some sections are still in use. In 2018, a woman accidentally paid 7,709 Swiss francs as a tip for a coffee. She entered her PIN instead of the amount she intended to pay. Later, when she called the cafe to clarify the payment, no one answered because it had already closed. Koalas sleep 18 to 22 hours a day. This is because their preferred food, eucalyptus leaves, is so toxic to their digestive system that it has to work excessively, using most of their energy. The original London Bridge was dismantled in 1968 to build a new one. A businessman bought it and transported it in pieces to Arizona with its 10,276 numbered blocks. In 1971, they finished reassembling it in its new home on the other side of the world. It is currently a tourist attraction, although it does not attract many people. In Korean folktales, instead of saying "once upon a time," they say something like "back when tigers smoked." This is used because there was a time when tobacco was so cheap that most people smoked. The fingernails on the hand you write with grow faster. They also grow even faster on longer fingers. The largest cave in the world is Sun Dun Cave, located in Vietnam. At its widest point, it is so large that a 40-story building could fit inside. It also has its own cloud system. Lady Gaga's telephone music video holds the Guinness World Record for having the most product placements. No more than 20 seconds pass without a different brand appearing on screen. Filmmaker Werner Herzog made a bet in 1979 that director Errol Morris would not be able to finish his first film, and if he lost, he would eat his shoe. He did this as a way to motivate him. When Herzog lost, they took the opportunity to make a special presentation of him eating his shoe. They even invited a chef to cook it. Michael Birch, the founder of the social network Bebo, sold it to AOL for $850 million in 2008, and 5 years later, he owned it again. He bought it back from AOL for only $1 million. The longest working model is Carmen del Orfice, who started at 15 years old and is currently 90 and still working. Emperor penguins measure around 47.2 inches and are the tallest penguins. However, there used to be much taller penguin species that are now extinct, including super penguins that measured up to 6.56 feet, about the same height as basketball player LeBron James. Gold has been extracted from the earth for more than 6,000 years. However, 75% of all gold that exists has been extracted since 1910. This is because extraction technology has improved. In 1992, the Miami Zoo put 30 flamingos in the men's restroom because a hurricane was about to pass and they had run out of shelters. Airports had to standardize their names to 3-letter codes in the 1930s to avoid confusion. Those that originally had only 2 letters added an X, so the X in airport codes usually does not mean anything. In 2011, Nike founded a group to train ultra-high-level runners with equipment that included underwater treadmills and a house that reduced oxygen using filters to simulate high-altitude environments, but it was closed in 2019 after receiving heavy criticism. More than 20% of the oxygen on planet Earth is produced in the Amazon rainforest, which is the largest rainforest in the world, with an area of 2.12 million square miles. Soccer player Cristiano Ronaldo gave his agent an entire Greek island as a wedding gift in 2015. It cost $3 million. The Tiananmen Square protests of 1989 in China almost delayed the release of the movie The Little Mermaid, since the studio that drew the thousands of bubbles required for the film was located just a few blocks away. They had to wait for the situation to improve in order to communicate. In 2017, the United Kingdom Nutrition Association conducted a survey and discovered that 29% of children aged 5 to 7 believe cheese comes from a plant and not from an animal. A University of Chicago study conducted in 1915 concluded that the color we can see most easily from far away is yellow, and that is why the first taxis were painted that color, which continues as a tradition in many cities around the world. During the Soviet Union era, a KGB agent was assigned to writer George Orwell to spy on him. Years later, this spy wrote a book detailing how he lost faith in communism forever after reading Orwell's works. Octopuses are the most intelligent invertebrates, so much so that they become extremely bored when kept in aquariums. That is why experts usually give them puzzles and skill games to distract them, which they solve in exchange for food. According to estimates from the United Nations, it is believed that there are more than 3 million sunken ships at the bottom of the ocean, but most do not have treasure. Flamingos are actually gray, but they gradually become colored over time by the pigment contained in the shrimp they eat, which colors their feathers. Nintendo Power magazine once held a contest in which the winner would appear as an extra in a scene in the movie The Mask 2 with Jim Carrey. However, the movie was canceled. After learning this, Nintendo gave the winner $5,000 and any games they wanted as a consolation prize. Unlike most animals, elephants can recognize themselves in a mirror. In the test where an X was drawn on their forehead, they were able to notice it and remove it with their trunk. In the movie Casino, the money Robert De Niro threw was not prop money. It was real $20 and $50 bills. During filming, everyone present had to be supervised so they would not take any. Only 1,200 copies of Nirvana's debut single, Love Buzz, were made in 1988. Each of those records is currently worth thousands of dollars. Actress Linda Carter, who was the first to play Wonder Woman, composed and sang 5 songs for the game Fallout 4, in addition to lending her voice to one of the main characters. Aeroplankton is the atmospheric equivalent of ocean plankton. They are microorganisms such as viruses and bacteria that float through the air and are transported around the world. If you stand under the Big Ben clock tower in London with a digital radio tuned to the BBC, you will hear the chimes on the radio before hearing them directly. This means that sound waves travel faster digitally from the tower's microphone to the station and to your radio than from the real bell to your ear. Calling soccer football originated in Great Britain more than 200 years ago. However, starting in the 1980s, it stopped being used in that part of the world because they wanted to differentiate it since the term now sounded very American to them. Apple purchased the internet domain iphone.org in 1999, 8 years before the phone was launched, when its development had not yet begun. In Fiji, there is an island called Tavarua that has a heart shape and is surrounded by a coral reef. Surf competitions are held there every year. James Cameron wanted to make the movie Alita: Battle Angel in 1995. He already had everything ready for production, but he had to wait because special effects were not advanced enough yet. This caused it to be released until 2019. Rolling Stones guitarist Keith Richards composed the band's most famous song, I Can't Get No Satisfaction, while sleeping. He woke up in the middle of the night, recorded 30 seconds of the song on a home recorder, and went back to sleep. He remembered nothing until he heard it the next day. Barns are traditionally red, but this was not intentional. It is because farmers made their own coating by combining oxidation with linseed oil. Oxidation prevents fungi and algae from forming on the wood, but it is also red in color. In 2001, after intense negotiations by the workers' union, Disney park employees who wore character costumes were allowed to wear their own underwear instead of having to wear the shared ones provided. In 2019, runner Kenji Rakon-sanum was in the Chonburi Marathon in Thailand when she came across a puppy that was lost or abandoned. Instead of leaving it, she carried it for more than half of the race until she finished, and since she did not find its owner, she adopted it. Uruguayan high society member Ramon Artagaveitia survived the sinking of a ship in 1871, which caused him to develop an irrational fear of traveling. 41 years passed before he boarded a ship again, which turned out to be the Titanic, where sadly he did not survive. Experts found a mural by Leonardo da Vinci that is located behind a wall in Florence, Italy, and it has been covered for more than 400 years. However, no one dares to reveal it because the wall that covers it contains the artwork The Battle of Marciano and could cause irreparable damage. When news about Ebola was on every news broadcast around the world in 2014, tourists began avoiding the city of Liberia in Costa Rica because they thought it was the country of Liberia in Africa. According to a scientific study, the catchiest pop song is Wannabe by the Spice Girls. On average, people recognize it in 2.3 seconds, while the average for other popular songs is 5 seconds. The reason whips make that characteristic sound is because, when cracked, the tip reaches a speed greater than the speed of sound, creating a small sonic boom similar to that of supersonic jets. Although horses were brought from Europe to the Americas starting in the 15th century, it is believed they originally evolved in the Americas, but were hunted until nearly all became extinct, except for some that crossed into Asia. The singer of the band The Pretty Reckless, Taylor Momsen, had an important acting career as a child. She appeared in the film The Grinch in 2000 and was part of series such as Gossip Girl. Some words added to products, such as premium, gourmet, or select, have been proven to help with sales even though they are not regulated and anyone can put those words on food without proving why. In the 1950s, researchers observed how a Japanese macaque realized that washing sweet potatoes in salt water made them taste better. Over time, its descendants and its entire troop learned to wash their food, becoming the first observed case of this behavior. The video game company Electronic Arts, or EA, had to remove thousands of copies of the PlayStation game Tiger Woods 99 from stores because one of the developers had hidden a full episode of the series South Park on the disc. In the ancient city of Pompeii, there were more than 200 takeout restaurants. Cooking at home was unusual, which is why most homes did not have kitchens. This was common in many cities of the Roman Empire. A species of African lungfish can hibernate outside water for a period of up to 5 years without drinking water or eating. It only wakes up when it is submerged in water again. In 2010, 1 year before rising to fame with Game of Thrones, actress Emilia Clarke appeared in a low-budget movie with poor digital effects called Triassic Attack, which was about dinosaur skeletons from a museum that came to life and attacked everyone. The country of Liechtenstein, besides being one of the smallest in the world, is also one of those that charges the lowest taxes on businesses. It currently has more registered companies than citizens. Human feet have many advantages for running long distances. Unlike the feet of other animals, short, forward-facing toes require less effort to push against the ground, reducing metabolic load. Ancient Rome had a population density 8 times greater than that of New York City today. In ice cream advertisements, they actually use mashed potatoes, modeling clay, or other substances to recreate the product instead of real ice cream, since with filming time and lighting, it would be impossible to keep it frozen. Pigeons live in their nests from birth until they are 30 days old. At that point, they already look like adult pigeons. That is why you never see baby pigeons on the street. 1 ton of computers contains more gold than 17 tons of soil from a gold mine, which is where gold is normally extracted. The planet Venus does not have seasons because it does not have an axial tilt like Earth. If Earth did not have that tilt, the climate would remain the same all the time. There are animals that, unlike us, never stop growing throughout their entire lives, such as kangaroos. In addition to lobsters, amphibians, lizards, snakes, and almost all fish, their only limitation is the amount of food they consume. In 2000, the founders of Google offered the company to Alta Vista for $1 million so they could leave it and continue their studies, but the offer was rejected. Today, Google is worth more than $100 billion. The novel by writer George Orwell, 1984, is based on the way communists led by Stalin spied on people. But what the author never knew is that he was also being spied on, and the person assigned to do it had the code name O'Brien, just like the antagonist in the novel. Some police forces in certain countries use long-range acoustic devices that emit sound waves of up to 137 decibels to disperse crowds. The sounds they produce cause nausea and vertigo. Musician Phil Collins appeared as an extra at age 13 in the Beatles movie A Hard Day's Night, where he was part of a group of fans in the final scene. A city in the Netherlands called Giethoorn has no streets and can only be traveled by boat. This earned it the nickname the Venice of the Netherlands. Neurologists have found evidence that when a person feels powerful, a part of the brain that contributes to generating empathy is deactivated. Crows are the only birds that can reconcile with members of their own species after fighting in order to avoid future conflicts. During the Victorian era, people were recommended to sleep in separate beds. This is because doctors believed that, during the night, people could absorb the vitality of the person sleeping next to them. In 2012, a proposal was launched for the moon to become the 51st state of the United States, but it remained only a one-day proposal. Cats have 2 different sets of vocal cords, one for meowing and another for purring. The ones they use for purring are the same type used by big cats, such as lions, to roar. In Tanzania, there are people who narrate movies in the local language while they are being shown in some theaters. They perform the dialogue and comment on what is happening. It has become a tradition, and those who do it are treated like celebrities. Currently, only 1 Viking helmet and 1 chainmail armor are preserved in the world. They were found in Norway, and no others exist because it was not customary to bury warriors with armor. Completely purified water that is stored in a sealed glass container can remain drinkable up to 1,000 years after being bottled. Beer soup was a very popular breakfast during the Middle Ages in Europe, and it was indeed made with beer and commonly included bread. When actress Alicia Cuthbert was filming the second season of the series 24, she had to do a scene where she was bitten by a cougar. For this, before the scene, the animal trainer told her to approach the cougar to become familiar with it. But when she was about to pet it, it bit her hand and she had to go to the hospital to be treated. To lift a house using balloons, like in the scene from the movie Up, it would require around 50 million helium-filled balloons. In New York City, in 1945, there was a strike by elevator operators that caused more than 1 million people to be unable to get to work. This caused the industry to change and accelerated the invention of the automatic elevators used today. The ingredients used to make the most exclusive perfumes are actually very cheap. The average cost to produce the liquid in a $150 perfume bottle is only $1.50. Normally, eggs do not need refrigeration. However, in many places, it is recommended to refrigerate them due to the processes used to clean them, which remove a protective layer that prevents bacterial growth. Sloths spend 15 to 18 hours sleeping and are known for being among the slowest animals. However, surprisingly, they are good swimmers. They can move 3 times faster in water. They usually do this when changing trees or when the jungle floods. Children have more than twice as many taste buds as adults, which causes them to experience flavors more intensely. That is why it is much easier for them to dislike something. Spider silk, while stored inside their bodies, exists in liquid form. It only becomes solid when it exits their glands and comes into contact with air. Ronald Wayne was the third founder of Apple and once owned 10% of the company, but he decided to sell his share in 1976 for only $800. Today, Apple is the most valuable company in the world. Charles Chaplin was the first actor to appear on the cover of Time magazine in 1925. This was 2 years after the first issue was published. The cockpit of the Boeing B-29 bomber that carried the atomic bomb during World War II served as inspiration for the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon in Star Wars. If you encounter a moth, the best way to scare it away is by shaking your keys, which produces a sound very similar to the ultrasonic waves produced by bats, causing it to think predators are nearby. Physicist, inventor, theologian, mathematician, and alchemist Isaac Newton went through a period where he studied occultism and, according to his predictions, concluded that the end of the world would occur in 2060, after which humanity would enter an era of divine peace. Since Homo sapiens, meaning us, appeared around 200,000 years ago, it is estimated that approximately 110 billion people have existed. The first email was sent in 1971, and it was sent to the computer next to it. Today, more than 300 billion emails are sent daily. In the city of Copenhagen in Denmark, there are more bicycles than people, and there are more than 248.5 miles of special bike lanes that are not shared with cars or pedestrians. Baltimore Ravens football team kicker Justin Tucker is an advanced-level opera singer and can sing in 7 different languages. While between events at the Beijing Olympic Games in 2008, runner Usain Bolt ate only McDonald's nuggets because it was the only food he trusted not to make him sick. He ate up to 100 nuggets per day. There is a bridge in Germany called Lego Bridge that is famous for being painted to look like it is made of giant Lego pieces. A graffiti artist painted it in 2011. Cats are the only animals that have domesticated themselves. They approached humans on their own terms, unlike dogs. When an ant colony is well established and has enough resources to sustain itself, flying ants begin to emerge to explore. In some cities in China, pollution is so severe that living there for 1 day is equivalent to smoking 21 cigarettes. When they were filming the movie He-Man in 1987, the studio realized it was going over its assigned budget, but instead of reducing it, they took money from other films, including Superman 4, whose budget was cut in half. Both were box office failures, and shortly afterward, the studio went bankrupt. The city of Quebec, Canada, took 30 years to fully pay off the debt from hosting the 1976 Olympic Games. Alley scenes in New York are very famous. However, in real life, there are only 5 of these alleys in the city, and filming is only allowed in one called Cortlandt. Therefore, either the scene was filmed somewhere else, or it is the same alley. People who have been exposed to air containing a small concentration of the element tellurium develop a strong, garlic-like odor on their breath that can last for months. Comedian Albert Brooks is not his real name. He changed it when he entered the entertainment industry. His original name is Albert L. Einstein, just like the famous physicist. Beavers have the instinct to build a wooden dam when they hear the sound of running water. Once, they conducted a test and managed to get a beaver to start working, simply by playing the sound of running water through speakers. The Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt was built using 2 million stone blocks that weighed more than 4,409 pounds each. It took 85 years to complete. Artificial Christmas trees were invented by a toilet brush company in Great Britain in the 1930s, when they realized they could use the same machine to make both products. Joseph Stalin exiled a filmmaker to a city in the Arctic for 10 years simply because he dated his daughter. There is an X-Men mutant named Ice Cream, whose power is that he can turn into any flavor of ice cream he wants. In the city of Tokyo, public restrooms were installed that are transparent when not in use. When someone enters and closes the door, the glass immediately becomes opaque. Fewer than 50 Apple I computers from 1976 are known to still exist. They can be worth more than $1 million. Americans spend only 10% of their salary on food on average, the lowest percentage compared to all other countries. In the Mekong River in Thailand, there is a phenomenon where glowing fireballs appear and rise into the sky. Some say they are caused by a dragon or a god, while others say they are flares launched by soldiers. But it has not been confirmed. The Singing Ringing Tree is a sculpture located in the city of Burnley in England that produces different melodies depending on the direction and intensity of the wind. In Brazil, there is an island called Queimada Grande, or Snake Island, where no one can go without obtaining a special permit. It is full of golden lancehead snakes that are endangered, but also highly venomous. Some people enter illegally to sell them on the black market. A lion's roar is one of the loudest sounds an animal can produce. It reaches up to 114 decibels at less than 3.3 feet away and can be heard up to 1.9 miles away. The only country in Europe that can be self-sufficient in basic food production is France. All others rely on imports to meet their needs. The forests of the cork oak tree, which is where cork comes from, are in danger of disappearing because cork is no longer used enough today, being replaced by plastic. The famous painting American Gothic by Grant Wood from 1930 captures a normal day of a farmer and his wife, or at least that is what many people believe, because in reality, it is his daughter standing seriously beside the farmer. It is one of the most parodied paintings of all. Leonardo da Vinci loved animals so much that he used to buy caged birds sold in the streets just to set them free. Elephants do not have heels. It is as if they are always standing on their tiptoes, supported by the front part of their feet, while the back part is only fat. The so-called smartest street in the world is located in a scientific community in the middle of Siberia, and within the 1.55 miles it covers, there are more than 20 research institutes. Many Soviet scientists moved there in the 1960s. A Formula One car costs an average of $15.5 million. The most expensive component is the engine, but parts like the front wing, which often breaks and can be replaced during a race, cost approximately $150,000. The Bingham Canyon Mine is the largest man-made hole on the planet. It is 0.75 miles deep and 2.48 miles wide. It has been used primarily to extract copper. The president of Nintendo of America is named Doug Bowser, just like Bowser, the enemy of Mario Brothers in the video games who always kidnaps Princess Peach. The Stanley Kubrick film Eyes Wide Shut holds the record for being the movie that took the longest time to film. Filming lasted 400 consecutive days, and post-production lasted another year. It was finally released in March 1999. Actor Alfred Molina was chosen to play Dr. Octopus in the 2004 film Spider-Man 2, after director Sam Raimi and his wife watched the film Frida, where Molina plays painter Diego Rivera. However, he had to lose a few pounds for the role. The oleander is the official flower of the city of Hiroshima in Japan, because it was the first to bloom after the atomic bomb explosion in 1945. Actor Brad Pitt was banned from entering China for 20 years after starring in the movie 7 Years in Tibet. Oil does not entirely come from dinosaurs. It is actually composed of fossil remains of microbes and other plants and animals that lived millions of years ago, even before dinosaurs. This belief spread because one of the first oil companies used a dinosaur as its mascot. There could be up to 6 billion planets similar to Earth in our galaxy, with the same size and a similar distance from a sun-like star. These are ideal conditions for life. A lightning bolt has enough energy to toast more than 100,000 slices of white bread. The Queen song Bohemian Rhapsody was recorded in 1975 using the same piano that was used to record the song Hey Jude by the Beatles 7 years earlier at Trident Recording Studio in London. The saying, "all roads lead to Rome," refers to how all boundaries of the Roman Empire were measured from the Golden Milestone, which marked the center of the city of Rome, and, supposedly, all roads also began there. The resurgence of the Apple industry in the last decade is largely due to McDonald's, which currently sells so many apples that they represent a percentage of global apple sales. In the Amazon rainforest, in the part of Peru, there is a river that has temperatures so high that at one point the water begins to boil. Unlike other boiling rivers that exist, this one is not located in a volcanic system. The Animal Planet channel aired a fake documentary twice that claimed mermaids existed. At the time, it had very high ratings, and thousands of people were left believing they were real. The first artificially created element was technetium, made in 1937. It is used for medical studies and as a corrosion inhibitor in steel. Its name means artificial in Greek. To determine the age of fish, a method similar to the one used with trees is used. Fish scales have a growth ring marking each year of life. The 1977 anime Rascal the Raccoon caused many Japanese people to want to adopt raccoons as pets. As a result, they imported thousands of raccoons from countries in the Americas. Later, when they realized that having wild raccoons as pets was not a good idea, they released them into a forest in the same way it happens in a scene from the series. Soon after, they multiplied and damaged 80% of the historical temples in the area. According to estimates made in 2016, there are at least 2 trillion galaxies in the observable universe. Before that, it was believed there were 10 times fewer. The opposite of déjà vu is jamais vu. It means never seen before, and occurs when something happens that you recognize or know has happened before, but it still feels like a new and strange experience. Newspaper paper is just as good or better for cleaning windows than specialized microfiber cloths and paper towels. There is a hole in the ozone layer above Antarctica that is twice the size of Europe. In the state of California in the United States, maintaining 3,000 people in prison requires an annual cost of $173 million. GPS coordinates in Australia currently require an adjustment of 5.9 feet because the country moves 2.8 inches north each year. And that is how much it has moved since the last satellite update. In the Soviet Union, prisoners used to tattoo Lenin and Stalin on themselves because guards and soldiers were forbidden from shooting images of their leaders. In the city of Pueblo in Colorado, United States, there is an experimental magnetic bullet train built in 1975 with NASA's collaboration that was abandoned due to lack of funding. The only birds that can fly backward are hummingbirds. There are more than 325 different species of these birds in the world. The airplane featured in the movie The Dark Knight Rises crashed 1 year after the film was released. None of the crew survived. If you leave Tokyo by plane at 7 in the morning, you would arrive in Hawaii at approximately 8 at night on the previous day, due to the 19-hour difference between time zones. The Pentagon has the capacity for 23,000 people, making it the largest office building in the world. It was designed so that any point could be reached within 10 minutes or less on foot. The Guns N' Roses song Sweet Child of Mine started as a game. During a session, guitarist Slash was playing improvised sounds as guitar exercises while making funny faces, but the other band members liked it. Now, it is one of the most recognizable guitar riffs. Owls' ears are uneven. They are located at different heights on their heads, and sound reaches one ear before the other. This helps them locate animals they hunt using only sound. In 2007, over the course of several months, police officers in Thailand who did not do their job well or misbehaved were forced to wear a pink armband with the image of Hello Kitty as punishment. The bear Bart became very famous after acting in many movies, including the hit The Bear from 1988. There was even a campaign to have him nominated for an Academy Award, but the Academy immediately banned it, stating that animals cannot be eligible for the award. The Smurfs were once invited to ring the opening bell of the day at the New York Stock Exchange. Darth Vader, Hello Kitty, and SpongeBob were also invited at some point. In Japan, beer cans have braille writing, so visually impaired people can identify that it is an alcoholic beverage and not drink it accidentally. Astronaut Neil Armstrong once said that his grandmother told him before going to the moon to look everywhere before stepping on it, and not to do so if he saw anything strange. Armstrong promised her he would. Doing squats can help wake up the brain due to increased blood flow to the hippocampus. The effect is amplified if combined with other activities such as reading or solving Sudoku puzzles. Sahara means desert in Arabic, so when you say Sahara Desert, you are actually saying desert desert. Ireland had official crown jewels, but they were stolen in 1907 and have not been found to this day. In the country of Turkmenistan, water, gas, and electricity have been free since 1993. The option to buy things with a single click was invented by Amazon, which holds the patent. Other companies that use it, such as Apple, must pay a license to implement it. In Ottawa, the capital of Canada, children who want to set up a lemonade stand must have their sign written in both French and English and must donate 7% of their earnings to charity by government order. When dolphins sleep, half of their brain remains active. They do this so they do not drown. The Lion King movie was considered secondary compared to Pocahontas, which had the best animators working on it. The Lion King earned more than double at the box office, $1 billion, while Pocahontas earned $364 million.
If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like it and share it with your friends. Subscribe so you don't miss more interesting content. Leave your comments and click on any of these videos. See you next time.